Hello to everyone, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Sharonda Pettit-Warner, and I'd like to welcome you to today's Oracle Advisor Webcast session entitled Email Response Functional Technical Overview for 8.1.1.x. Our speaker today is Siebel Saha. She's a Senior Technical Support Engineer with Oracle. We expect today's webcast to last approximately 60 minutes, including a brief Q&A session. Today's recorded PowerPoint presentation along with the audio can be found on My Oracle Support. The document ID number for that is 740-966.1. New webcast will be posted approximately 48 hours after the presentation. Questions may be submitted to me throughout the presentation via the chat. Just look for the icons located on the toolbar at the top of the WebEx session. The questions will be collected and read aloud during the Q&A at the end of this presentation. What you see on your screen at this time is the Safe Harbor Statement, which serves as a reminder that this advisor webcast is intended for information purposes only. Any features or functionality described for Oracle's products remains at the sole discretion of Oracle. Now, let's get started with our presentation. Vincent, if you're ready, I'll turn the webcast over to you, and you can begin.
Yes. Thank you, Sharonda. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. My name is Siebel Saha, and I work as a Senior Technical Support Engineer for Siebel Established Products. I primarily work in the space of CTI and email response. I would like to thank you all for joining today's session titled Email Response Functional Technical Overview for 8.1.1.x. This is the agenda we have for today. We would cover the overview of Siebel email response, where we would look into the key features, fundamentals of Siebel email response, architecture of communications infrastructure, communication drivers, profiles, templates, how emails are received in Siebel, something about structured and unstructured email processing, and events on the communications inbound receiver. Next, we would look into the preconfigured workflows provided in Siebel email response. Then we would understand the inbound email response functionality, the communications screen and its functionality, communications inbound receiver threads and tasks, then how to start a response group and its worker thread. Then we would look into the status page of communications inbound receiver. And then we would come to the email response new features and enhancements, which would include the new email response UI changes. And finally, we would come to troubleshooting Siebel email response. Now, email is a popular channel that many customers use to communicate their needs to organizations. Through the email response features, you as a call center agent can respond to inbound emails. Inbound emails can be routed to the most appropriate agent based on business logic available for routing the various types of customer communications. You can view your inbound email queues at a glance. You can view related customer account, service request, and opportunity profiles as well as attachments. Lastly, you can use templates to compose customized replies to inbound emails. This topic focuses on the use of these email features. Now we could talk about the key features of Siebel email response. Siebel email response allows agents to receive and reply to inbound email messages. Siebel email response's zero-install web client delivers highly interactive functionality while minimizing the total cost of ownership. It provides customized auto-acknowledgement based on service level agreements or SLAs. It provides intelligent email routing to ensure the correct agent receives and responds to customer inquiries. Inbound email routing can be handled by Siebel Assignment Manager or with Siebel Workflow, or we can also integrate third-party routing and queuing engine for the same purpose. It offers multi-language spell checking to ensure messages are professionally written. Siebel email response is extremely flexible and scales to support organizations of all sizes, from focused single-site operations to the largest deployments with multiple sites around the world. As Siebel email response is accessed through the commonly used web browser, training costs are reduced and new agents can become productive very quickly. Now, this is a high-level diagram on how the customer or the external contact sends an inbound email and Siebel email response group intercepts that email and a service request or an inbound email activity is created in Siebel. After the creation of the service request or the inbound record, an auto-acknowledge email is sent back as a response to the customer or the contact to notify him about the service request number or the incident that has been created. Here we see how we can use sample email template created with merge fields or substitution fields from the business component, using which we can send responses to the email inbound interactions created within Siebel. To handle increasing volumes of email, agents use Siebel email response to respond knowledgeably and effectively for inbound emails. Siebel email response uses an advanced self-learning, statistical modeling, and linguistic processing technology to literally read the email and determine the intent of the customer. This ensures that the right responses are associated with customer inquiries. The system can both auto-respond to a customer as well as auto-suggest responses to an agent for review. If the agent selects a response different from the most likely candidate, the system records that event and proactively learns to become more accurate through continual use. If additional text is added, spell checking is provided to ensure the responses of the highest quality. Through workflow, companies can mimic their business process and route or process emails based on customer value using this graphical, easy-to-use drag and drop tool. Last but not the least, the system is seamlessly integrated with the rest of Siebel's communication channel, and it gives you access to complete customer information and interaction history. Many times, companies have a difficult time managing their service levels across channels, or they force their IT departments to configure products to allow them to manage their business processes. Using Siebel email response with workflow, messages can be routed by customer value. So an email from a gold customer can be routed to an agent that handles all gold accounts, or messages can be routed to follow escalations rules that you as a company have set up. To leverage best practices and ensure that business processes are met, Siebel email response provides easy-to-administer, powerful email processing capabilities through Siebel workflow. By leveraging the Siebel Workflow Process Designer, Siebel email response enables administrators to graphically lay out, visualize, and modify email processing workflows without having to write custom code. Siebel email response improves the flexibility of the system to handle custom business requirements and enables organizations to respond quickly to changes in business process while reducing their IT costs. Now, with Workflow Process Manager, Siebel Email Response could perform the following tasks. It can determine the commit time based on the customer service level agreement. It sends a message to assignment manager for routing or to a custom routing and queuing solution. When integrated with a custom routing and queuing software, it routes incoming email to an agent based on defined parameters such as agent skills. The selected routing and queuing processes route and queue messages to the agent with the skills that are necessary to respond to the message. It ensures that customer satisfaction and service levels are achieved by routing requests to the most qualified agent based on skills, customer value, business logic, and availability. As a result, the workload can be balanced across the organization, reducing operational costs and ensuring that customers' requests are prioritized appropriately. Using this intuitive graphical drag and drop tool, you can model your business processes and best practices across your organization easily. The following components for Siebel Communication Server handle email traffic to and from Siebel Email Response. The Communications Inbound Receiver pulls email from the email server and converts the email into event data and creates a server request for the server request broker component. In real-time mode, the Communications Inbound Receiver both receives and processes the inbound messages using workflows. So, if you choose to use real-time mode, the Communications Inbound Processor is not used and only the Communications Inbound Receiver is used. If we choose to use non-real-time mode, then we have both the Communications Inbound Receiver and the Communications Inbound Processor, where the Communications Inbound Processor receives the events from Communications Inbound Receiver and processes them using workflows. Then we have the Communications Outbound Manager component, which Siebel Email Response uses to send responses to the incoming interactions which get created with Siebel. This is the architecture of communications infrastructure in Siebel. A principal component of Siebel Call Center is the Siebel Communication Server. It is the enabling infrastructure to provide real-time interactions like voice, email, chat, web collaboration, etc. to agents using a web browser client without requiring any client-side software. Now, what are communication drivers? Communication drivers are Siebel libraries that provide interface between the Siebel application and an outside messaging system. The interface is established by configuring a set of parameters provided with each driver. These drivers have several parameters that define their default behavior. We initially configure a communications driver by setting default parameters for the driver in the administration communications screen under the communications drivers and profiles view. The Siebel communications driver for email processing are as follows. The Internet SMTP IMAP server. This supports Internet mail servers that support the SMTP protocol for outbound email and the IMAP protocol for inbound email, that is for Siebel Email Response. And the next is the Internet SMTP POP3 server, which supports the SMTP protocol for outbound email and the POP3 protocol for inbound email. Both these drivers support plain text as well as HTML formats of email. Now, from Siebel version 8.1.1.x onwards, the library name for the Internet SMTP POP3 server driver has been renamed from SSTM POP3 to SSTM Near. This driver is also used for the new Internet SMTP IMAP server driver. So, in Siebel release 8.1, we have to change the library name of the Internet SMTP POP3 server driver by navigating to Administration Communication screen, Communication Drivers and Profiles, and select the Internet SMTP POP3 server driver and change the library name from SSTM POP3 to SSTM Near. We also recommend that you review the following documents to configure the Siebel email response module with the Internet SMTP IMAP server drive. The ID of the document is 1512349.1. Now, what are communication profiles? A profile is an instance of a communications driver. It provides access to communications drivers for specific context. So you can make a communications driver available to serve a particular purpose by creating one or more profiles that reference the driver. For each profile, you can specify parameter values to override the parameters of the reference driver or to provide values that have not been specified. Profiles are used when defining response groups for inbound communications to support Siebel email response. Now next we come to communication templates. Templates provide both content and structure for outbound messages. Communication templates are used to send outbound communications to recipients when sending replies to inbound messages in Siebel email response. The content of the template can include both specified text like free-form text and Siebel field values substituted into the outbound message. Templates can be made available to all users by checking the public flag or can be created for personal use. Templates support both plain text and HTML format. Standard HTML tagging options can support text formatting, images, hyperlinks, tables, and so on. Templates can be created either in the My Templates view or in the All Templates view. This is the architecture diagram of Siebel email response and Siebel send email. Here we see the Siebel application server, which comprises of the user interface layer and other components like Siebel AI, Siebel Workflow, Siebel Smart Answer, and the business logic layer. It also has the communications server, which includes communications inbound receiver, communications inbound processor, communications outbound manager, and communications session manager. Next, we see the Siebel Communications API. This is the Siebel Adaptive Communications, which is a programmable software layer between Siebel applications and the external communication system that a communication driver is written to support, such as a CPI middleware package or an email server. The adaptive communications layer has two main parts. The client handle, which is how the communications driver can access functionality in the Siebel application, and the communication driver encompassing the driver handle and the service handle through which the communications pass between the Siebel application and the external communication system. Next, we would see how emails are received in Siebel in case of real-time operation. Now, in real-time mode, communications inbound receiver both receives and processes inbound messages. Communications inbound processor is not used. Real-time mode may be appropriate if you have a relatively low volume of messages In such a case, you can use real-time mode in order to perform all inbound processing through a single component. Here we see how the email comes to the external email server, from where it is pulled by the POP3 or IMAP driver, which parses it and then creates EVT files with themes for the CIR component. CIR gets those EVT files and calls the email response workflows to create the activity records based on the email. Users go to communication screen to check the inbound emails, which are shown as with a status of not started. 3D sends the request to the object manager, and the inbound item list view, which is again a specialized view, can be seen where the user can see the list of emails to which he can send a reply or forward. Next, we come to how emails are received in Siebel Architecture in case of non-real-time mode. In non-real-time mode, the communications inbound receiver receives the inbound messages and queues them for further processing by the communications inbound processor. So here we see the email comes to the email server, the POP3 or IMAP driver pulls the email, parses it, creates the EVT files for the communications inbound receiver. The communications inbound receiver gets the EVT files and creates a record based on the email in the S_CM_inbound EVT table, and then it submits a request to the server request processor so that the communications inbound processor can intercept the same request. The communications inbound processor then receives the synchronous request. It queries the S_CM_inbound EVT table to get the email data, and then it calls the respective email response workflows. The CIP then executes the workflows and then it creates activity. And then users go to the communication screen to check the emails which are presented with the status of not started. And then the steps are as same as real-time processing. Now let's talk about structured and unstructured email processing. Now, structured email processing means Siebel email response expects some kind of structure to the email message. We have the Siebel email response process service request workflow to process structured or keyword-based or web form messages. So for keyword-based message, the subject headers of incoming email messages need specific keywords to indicate different actions. For example, you can require help, status, query, submit, and update keywords in the subject line to initiate an action. The keywords allows Siebel workflow to determine the appropriate process for a given email. In keyword-based email messages, customers must understand and use the required format or the data is not parsed correctly. Web forms allow the customer to communicate the severity of an issue, allow Siebel email response to categorize the issue, and provide information that Siebel assignment manager can use to notify the appropriate service representatives in your organization. So examples of incoming structured messages include new service requests, status requests for pending SRs, updates to existing SRs, and searches for specific SRs. Below we see an example of an incoming web form message where you can see the subject has the keyword submit, which means that when the email is processed in Siebel, it would create a new service request with severity as 1 critical and area as usage. Unstructured email or fill form messages do not need any special subject or structure in the incoming email. It provides a broad range of communication such as requests for general information, requests for information about a product or event, and order requests. Unstructured email messages are processed using the email response process message workflow. This workflow creates activity records that you can view in the communication stream. Below we see an example of a unstructured message threading. Now let's talk about the events and the communications inbound receiver. For both real-time processing and non-real-time processing, inbound email is saved as event data to the local disk in a file with the .evt file extension. Message content and attachments are also saved to the Siebel file system. When communications inbound receiver is started, it loads the communications driver that its processing response groups require. Each response group can use multiple communication profiles. Each communication profile requires a communication driver. The communications driver retrieves messages and passes them to communications inbound receiver in the proper format. The communications driver passes tag value pairs which define the content of the incoming message to communications inbound receiver. Any attachments that are associated with the incoming message are stored on the email server. References to these attachments are included in the name value pairs that the communications driver pass to communications inbound receiver. The workflows that communications inbound receiver invoke delete all file attachments when these attachments are no longer needed. Communication inbound receiver takes the incoming message data and serializes it to a disk-based queue. Events are stored in folders underneath the queue directory. The folders are named after the response group that generates the event. Events are in the UTF-8 character set, which translates 16-bit Unicode characters to 8-bit characters. Each event always has a file name prefix of CIR. Here we see the diagram where we see the different scenarios of processing the events. And a typical communication inbound receiver event flows as below. The driver generates an event for the communication inbound receiver. The CIR creates an EDT file that stores the driver event. The CIR renames the file to XEVT immediately before workflow execution. If the workflow executes successfully without any errors, the .xevt file is deleted. For more information, we would recommend that you review the Siebel Email Administration Guide, Chapter 7, Sections Event State, State Transitions, and Event Processing. Now, in each mode, inbound email is saved as event data to the local disk in a file called the extension .evt. In real-time mode, all event processing is done by the communications inbound receiver, and additional files are created on the local disk that represent different states of processing or represent error conditions. Such extensions include .xevt, which means events are ready for processing by the workflow process, .error, which means events that generated known errors and can be retried, .crash, which means that events failed for unknown reasons and must not be retried. It is likely that the processing of this event has caused the abnormal termination. Now, in case of non-real-time mode, the non-real-time events that have been submitted to communications inbound processor can be tracked using the communications inbound events view in the administration communications stream. Events that could not be fully processed due to transient errors can be resubmitted manually from this view. Valid status for events in the communications inbound events view include as below. Queued means the communications inbound receiver has submitted the event for processing by communications inbound processor. CIP processing means communications inbound processor has received the event and is currently processing the event. Error means event processing has failed due to an error. You can resubmit the event for processing using the submit request command in the applet menu. And lastly, fatal means the event processing has failed due to an unknown error and must not be submitted. Now, Siebel business applications provide two types of workflow process with Siebel email response. Now, to start Siebel email response, we should ensure that we have activated all the email response workflow process. We can see the list of email response workflow process by going to the workflow process view in the administration business process stream and querying for email response tab. The first type of workflow is the message processing workflows, which includes the following two workflows: email response process message and email response process service request. Process message is used primarily for unstructured messages, and this creates an inbound email activity record. And process service request is used for structured messages, and this searches the subject of each inbound message for specific keywords, and then based on the subject, the workflow uses this keyword to call the appropriate sub-process. Next type is the user interface workflow, which gets invoked each time an agent clicks specified button in Siebel email response. The response workflow is triggered when the agent clicks on any of the reply to all, or forward buttons on the My or My Teams and all communications tree, and the client send email workflow is invoked when the agent clicks the send button from the communication detail response view while sending the outbound response. This is the workflow diagram of the email response process message. You can notice that it invokes a number of sub-processes, and out of that, one is the create activity process. This is the workflow diagram of the create activity sub-process. Here we notice that it has a set create activity and add attachment. This is the email response process service request workflow. Here we can see that we have a decision based on the subject keyword, and based on the subject line keyword, it navigates to the different sub-processes. Now let's understand the inbound email response functionality. Below are the basic steps that take place when an inbound email is processed to the Siebel email response application by email response process message workflow. Any unread message found in the monitored mailbox are fetched into Siebel's application via the POP3 protocol, which is as per RFC 1939. These messages are fetched as text files, which is a MIME-encoded format in RFC 2822, and it contains all the parts of the message like headers, message body, attachment. These are fetched to the sleep server bin incoming directory. These text files are eventually what are attached as original message.txt files to the email inbound activity record. The SMTP POP3 driver parses the message. If it cannot parse the message, it places the message in the sleep server bin fail directory. Once the message is parsed, we see that MIME decodes them into their constituent parts, converts the message body to Unicode, and creates an .ebt file. The .ebt file for the inbound message is with a set of name value pair containing the basic message properties of the inbound message, and it goes to the queue directory of the response group, which is the soup server bin queued email response group directory. It comprises data from the header of the inbound message, the message body, pointers to the various attachments, and their file names belonging to the inbound message in the incoming directory. Any attachments and the original message text files and data files are placed in the incoming directory as well. If the internal SMTP POP3 driver cannot parse the message, it fails and it is moved to the failed directory and no further attempts are made to process that message again. During the POP3 process, each message is given a UID or a unique ID. This is also recorded in a file in the directory soup server bin queued email response group name directory to ensure that the same message is not fetched again. The POP3 process deletes the message that it has fetched from the mailbox at the end of the POP3 process. The quit command affects this. During the session, you may see delete commands being sent to the POP3 mail server. These only mark the fetched message for deletion, but the actual message deletion happens when the quit command is successful. We recommend that users do not set up other email clients to access the mailboxes that Siebel email response monitors, because the email driver deletes the message from the POP3 server when Siebel email response processes them. These deleted messages are not visible to other clients. Now, once a message has been fetched, the email response group invokes the email response process message workflow process to process it. The response group is associated with the workflow process, which is to handle the back-end processing of the inbound messages. This workflow has a load from message step. This reads the EVT file into workflow process property. Typically, the workflow process will execute a create activity subprocess, which creates the email inbound activity record and adds the attachment and the original message text to it. The last step in the workflow process is delete temporary files, where for the given inbound message, the EVT file in the queue directory is purged. The temporary attachment data files in the incoming directory are purged. If the workflow process fails before reaching the delete temp files, the CIR processes which were launched by the response group will rename the EVT files in various ways for a second reprocessing attempt. If the workflow process repeatedly fails before this step is reached, then the temporary files will tend to accumulate and fill all available space and have to be deleted manually. Now let's understand the communication screen and its functionality. The communication screen is generally reached by going to sitemap communication list view. This is also known as the email response screen. This screen has 4 tabs: more info, body, attachments, and history. This is where inbound email activity records are to be viewed and manipulated, and outbound ones too. The communication screen and a set of applets have special functionality, one which can display and handle email records. Other standard screens and applets within the Siebel application do not have this special functionality. The COM inbound item list applet is based on a specialized component with a specialized ELN. In general, these screens are not suitable for customer customization. In the top right corner, one can choose one of the predefined save queries to view the specific state of email records 1 is 1 2. One can also choose between the following views: My Communications, All Communications, or My Team's Communications. The new unanswered inbound email has a status of not started. The actions that can be taken for the email records listed here are via the buttons reply, reply to all, and forward. Drilling down on the hyperlink subject for replying to an inbound email is not generally considered to be a valid and supported operation for Siebel version 8.0 and earlier. It was a new feature introduced from Siebel 8.1 onwards, where you can drill down on the subject field for the message in the communication list view to navigate to the outgoing message form. You must then click reply, reply to all, or forward on the outgoing message form. Now, clicking on any of the reply to all or forward button executes the email response workflow process. We see the workflow diagram here. This workflow creates a new email outbound activity record representing the reply or forwarded message. The original email inbound activity record is marked updated with the status of done. A new screen appears, which is the communication detail response view with three applets: com outbound item form applet, com inbound item form applet, and com inbound item incoming attachment list applet. The user can select change from profile, modify change the to email address, modify the subject, add a category, associate the outgoing message with the service request number, opportunity account, or another contact, edit and change the message body, spell-check the email, remove HTML tags, or add attachment. You can notice that a thread ID representing the inbound message's activity row ID is added to the body of the outgoing message. This is the workflow which gets triggered when we click the send button on the communication details response page. This workflow process sends the reply forward email via the Communications Outbound Manager Business Service Send Message method. A job for this is queued on the S_SRM request, asynchronous server request job queue. On sending of the message, the com outbound manager component updates the email outbound activity record with the status of done, and one may also capture a copy of the raw outbound message. Now let's talk about communication inbound receiver threads. Siebel email response runs on a hierarchy of Siebel server threads. The master empty server thread, when a Siebel server starts up and the component has been enabled, an empty server thread will start up. For email response, the master empty server threads are com inbound receiver and com inbound processor, which has a value of 1 as default. So we can also see the startup and shutdown of these empty server threads in the Siebel server's enterprise server log when the components are started or shut down. Now, generally to shut the empty server threads down, if we want to, the Siebel server itself would normally need to be shut down. However, if you can also shut down the components by navigating to the Administration Server Management Components section. If a component stubbornly refuses to shut down using the button, we can try to do a fast shutdown command, where the command would make the component shut down faster because it does not wait for active processing to finish to shut down the component. The communications inbound receiver component is only affected by the max thread and min thread parameters. Max thread is the maximum number of threads that you will allow CIR to have, and min thread is the minimum number of threads that CIR will start with. The max thread parameter should always be lower than the max task parameter. The max task parameter is a Siebel server parameter to control the max number of threads for a component. And the max empty server and min empty server for CIR is by default set to 1 each. Here you can see the various values which we discussed in the previous slide. If you notice carefully, you can see that maximum task is set to 21, which is higher than the max thread, which is set to 20. So every time we start an instance of the communications inbound receiver, the application starts one main task and 5 subtasks. The main task is assigned the first lowest task number, and the 5 subtasks are assigned the next number in sequence. So now from version 8.x onwards, we cannot see the task for CIR in the GUI. So inbound components no longer assign tasks to specific response group. There is now a pool of threads generated for the response group to use in fetching and processing email. These threads are created and used dynamically, thus the communications inbound receiver is only affected by the max thread and min thread parameters. Server manager and server manager from UI show no running tasks of COM inbound receiver. This indicates that we cannot see the task list for CIR with inbound email as for any inbound email received. CIR will generate a detached task, and detached tasks are not displayed in task list in UI. The task for CIR can only be viewed using the following 2 server manager commands. The server manager commands show all the detached tasks. This would display all tasks for the same component. We would recommend that you review the following article for further reference. Now let's see how to start our response group and its worker thread. Now we have to navigate to administration communication screen or response group, and in the response group applet, we have to select the response group, ensure that it has a startup value of active and the logical name of the Siebel server, not the IP address, and then from the applet level menu, select submit response group changes. Now similarly, to stop the response group, we have to ensure that its startup value is set to inactive, and then we have to do a submit response group changes. This will perform a graceful shutdown of the response group and all its worker threads for both parent and child threads. So for a response group to start and stop, the COM inbound receiver empty server thread must be running. If a response group has status startup equal to active, it will automatically start up when the Siebel server and its empty server thread start up. If a response group has status startup equal to inactive, it will not automatically start up when the Siebel server is started. Generally, you should not need to try to shut down the empty server threads as well, leave them running. To shut the latter down, stop the Siebel server. Now, this is the section where we can see the communications inbound receiver status page. By navigating to http://hostname://5555, where hostname is the name of the Siebel server on which the communications inbound receiver is running. Now let's talk about the new email response UI changes. Now Siebel 8.1.1 introduced new email response UI changes. This is a new functionality to manage the saving of drafts and templates from the communications stream as described in the email administration guide. These new features introduce 3 applets, all of which are based on specialized classes. The applets are COM inbound items form applet new, COM outbound items form applet new, and COM outbound item outgoing attachment list. Now in Siebel 8.1.1.1, the bug 10557614 was released. This fix ensures that when replying or forwarding an email, the outbound email should be in the same format as the original email. Customers who have installed Siebel 8.1.1.1 or higher must complete the installation and configuration steps as indicated in Siebel maintenance release guide. Any customer currently on 8.1.1 who applies a fixed pack must apply the instructions in the maintenance release guide to implement the new change. We would also recommend that you refer to the following two documents which talks more about how to apply the new theme. Now, all customers who do not complete the configuration steps as discussed earlier, they would experience unexpected behavior in managing email from the communication stream. Here we have shown some known issues which happen when proper installation of the new UI changes was not done. And one of them, the most common, is the reply to all buttons are disabled. Also, we have the following known issues reported after installing and configuring the steps. So, we have created these documents which you can refer for further information on how to resolve the same. Next, we would come to troubleshooting email response. For troubleshooting email response, firstly, we would recommend that you refer to Siebel Email Administration Guide version 8.1, chapter 14. And then we would recommend that you follow the below articles for detailed level of logging and tracing the email response workflows, as well as the object manager and communication inbound manager, communications inbound receiver log, and also the internet SMTP POP3 log. For further information, we would recommend that you review the Siebel Email Administration Guide, Chapter 7, Chapter 12, and also Chapter 5. If you need more information, please review the Master Index for Siebel Email Response, as well as the two information centers that we have created, one for Siebel Email Response and the other for specifically troubleshooting Siebel Email Response. With this, I conclude today's presentation and hope you all have enjoyed this and hope this information that I shared with you today was informative. So I hand it over to you, Sharonda, where we would now open the floor for questions and answers.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Sadishna. That was a great presentation. We'll open our Q&A in just a moment, so please use the chat feature or the phone lines at this time to let us know that you do have a question. Jody, can you give instructions for posting a question via the phone lines to our audience, please?
Yes, ma'am. At this time, I would like to remind everyone, in order to ask a question, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. Again, if you would like to ask a question, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad.
While we wait for your questions, please note that within 48 hours, the download streaming link as well as the PDF for this presentation will be posted to my Oracle support. The document ID for that is 740966.1. If you think of a question after the presentation ends, please send me an email at sharonda.pettit@oracle.com, and I'll forward it on to the presenter to answer on a one-off basis. Any questions at this point, Jody?
Yes, ma'am. You have a question from the line of Rajarman Kama.
Yeah, hi. It's a nice presentation. Hopefully you can hear me properly, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. So with reference to the processing of the structured or the unstructured emails, right, I see one of the workflow where the subject is really like checking for a couple of the keywords. So is it possible we can extend that specific workflow by adding additional keywords and add additional sub-process workflows based on the customer needs?
Yeah, you can always do that. You can always extend the workflow. You just have to, include a separate sub-process.
Okay. Okay, that's great. And also, I see with the recent version of the 8.11.x version based on the new features of the UI and everything, I have seen a couple of the customers were facing challenges because of the reason we're actually trying to see, okay, the status of the email will be set to a specific status, whether we got a reply, whether we got a draft of the outgoing message or anything like that. So I'm wondering how how other customers are handling the situations where we are actually hard-coding the status of the inbound activity to a specific one, like not started instead of the previous state done in the prior releases. So I'm wondering how other customers and everyone from the product management side is handling the situation.
I think not started was there even in the earlier releases also, but in earlier release there was inconsistency in maintaining the statuses. Okay, so we had got numerous issues from customers where, if you drill down, the status gets changed to something else. If you don't drill down, if you click on reply button, the status. So there was never a consistency between the statuses. And in the recent version, with the new email response UI changes, we have taken care of that. So right now, there is a section in Bookshelf which talks about, I think it is chapter 12, which talks about how the status gets changed for every parent as well as child email messages. And now, there is no inconsistency. And we actually track the status of both the parent as well as the child emails. And you can notice that, based on the status the email record has, the buttons will get disabled or enabled. For example, if there is a draft record, you can see that only the resume button gets enabled and none of the other buttons are enabled. So I think whatever inconsistency we had, it has been taken care. So if you can have a time to just, try out the existing email response functionality, you can just see the, enhanced behavior.
Okay, excellent. And also, when I worked with one of the customers recently, they're posing the questions, we really like the status of the old email response prior to 811X. So they are wondering whether they can keep their old workflows, and is there a need to actually import the new workflows, and that is actually breaking their business. And actually, we have worked around on one of the situations where they need to set the status of their inbound activity if they cancel the draft of the message or something like that, where in the specific business service, like set parental status, something like that, if I remember correctly, we actually try to return the cancel operation, something like that. So to bypass all these workarounds, they're wondering if they would be in a supported fashion if they do not want to import the new workflows.
Yeah, see, if you do not import the new workflows, obviously that is not supported in Siebel. Okay. Now, if you are on 8.1.1.x, you have to import these changes. So what I have seen as a support representative that many customers who have had customizations in previous releases on email response, they actually do not take the entire set of new email response UI changes that we offer. So they try to compare, the object, what has been changed and all the zip files and the workflows, and then they try to come, to an optimum solution where they, take some of the changes and they keep some of the changes of their previous release, so that, final solution is something which they can work on.
Okay, got you. Okay, those are the set of questions which I got, and thank you so much for all the responses.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Okay. So, Shavanda, I can see another question. Could you show us a sample of how to test the email response on our local machines? Since every time making a change and deploying the workflows to test is tedious. Local machine, I think you can test, on a dedicated client if you're connected to the server database, and we provide something called load message from XML file. I'm not very sure about it. I think there is some documentation on it, and maybe you can try out that.
Okay, Sudeshna. Any other questions, either over the phone lines or via the chat?
Yes, ma'am. You have another question?
Thank you, Jody.
You are welcome, ma'am. Your next question comes from the line of Srihari Gulapodai.
Hi, this is Thierry. So, excuse me. What all
the new features that coming with 8.1.1 comparatively with 8.0? Is there any set of new features or any UI changes?
Yeah, UI change as well as there has been a change in the underlying functionality. If you want to, see what are the new features, I think you have to review the email administration guide, which will talk about the entire set of new features. So mainly we have, changed the way messages and replies were managed in earlier releases. Okay, and now you can see that the UI has also changed. Like the reply buttons, reply to all forward buttons are no more available in the communications detail response view. So these buttons are only available in the communications list view. Okay, and now we have a functionality like saving a draft message and also resuming, and also we can save an existing message as a template so that we can use it further.
Okay. Actually, currently we have implemented email response in 8.9 actually, but we have done lots of changes to the web templates to make a convenient user interface to the customer. So that is the reason why, is there anything like flexibility in modifying the UI or something in 8.1?
No. Email response has never been flexible. Not only in 8.1.1, even in earlier releases, Siebel response, we have seen that customers who have done a high level of customization, some point or the other, we come to issues which are not, which we would not be able to fix from support perspective. Okay, and technical support would handle these cases only, where customers use, standard email response workflows, or where customizations are such that we are able to replicate it on our side. If you have high level of customizations like what you said right now, those issues would have to be referred to advanced customer support team.
Okay, right now we don't have any issues basically. We have a little bit modified the templates to make the convenient user interface. So, yeah, I just wanted to check like anything related to that part.
So we would not support any customizations, neither do we recommend customers to do any customizations. Okay, and again, you have to analyze and compare your previous customizations and the new changes, so that you come to an optimum level, because it is mandatory to take these changes which we have given.
Okay.
There are no further questions at this time.
Thanks, Jody. Suggestion, it looks like I have a follow-up question for you from the earlier question. I'm just going to read it aloud to you.
Okay.
Yes, there is a step to load message from XML, but there is no XML document.
Okay, I'm sorry, I haven't tested this particular feature, in Siebel email response. Maybe I'll try to find out if I can get some information on this XML document, and we will get back to you later on this.
That would be a great one to post in the community as well, traditionally.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, fantastic. All right, my chat box is clear. Jody, what about your phone lines?
There are no questions on the phone lines.
All right, thank you so very much, and thank you, Suggestion, for moving through and getting those questions answered for us. I would like to conclude the Q&A session at this point. Suggestion, can I have you go to the proactive slides? There's a few more slides I'd like to cover with everyone before we close today's webcast.
Sure, Sharana.
Thank you. All right, the Proactive Capability Portfolio is included in your Premier Support Agreement. Exploring how to get proactive is important because it can lower your organization's cost for preventing problems. Being proactive also reduces risk and maximizes uptime. So when problems do occur, you can get faster resolution. Avoiding problems is even more faster. Proactive tools help you determine which patches you need and avoid conflicts. Upgrade advisors help you through the process step by step as you're going through an upgrade. The sessions in My Oracle Support community lets you hear what other customers are saying about patches and give you lessons learned from their experiences that can also help you avoid problems. To learn more, explore the KM note that's highlighted there, KM note number 432.1. If you have any additional questions, you can contact the Proactive team. Email address is listed there as well, getproactive_ww@oracle.com. Can I ask you to move to the next slide, please, Tradition?
Yeah.
This is just a reminder that the current Advisor Webcast schedule and archive recordings can be found on the portal that's listed there. You get to this portal by the document ID number that's listed there, 740966.1. Next slide, please. Here's a look at the new portal. Welcome to the Advisor Webcast program. To get started, what you want to do is select your product ID area from the drop-down list box, like Siebel. Next slide, please. And then by product area, you can view the current schedules and register for an upcoming webcast. This is also the place in the area that you would like to go to when you want to view this recording that will be posted 48 hours from now. So this is where you can go to view any past recordings maintained in the archive tab that you see listed there. Next slide, please. Okay, this does bring us to the end of this Advisor Webcast session today. I would like to thank Tradition Saha for the presentation that she presented today. And I also would like to thank everyone for joining us today in the Oracle Advisor Webcast session. We hope that you found this webcast valuable, and we look forward to you joining us again in the near future. Please enjoy the remainder of your day.